I'm here with my friend Carol Riley, and we are in her shop at the Church Palace. And so, Carol, tell us about your brand, Tatters. How did it get started?
Well, you know, it's in the beginning, when I was a teenager, I couldn't afford the clothing that everybody else had. Mm-hmm. I like things that were a little different, and so I went to jumble sales, which are rummage sales in America.
Okay.
I would buy these beautiful, like, crepe de chine dresses, and of course, I was a skinny mini then, so I would take them home, alter them, and wear them. And so I got high fashion for no money.
Cool.
And I've always done it. And so when I came here, I just started grabbing the vintage fabrics and making what I could from the piece of fabric. That's why everything's different. And nothing has a size. Mm-hmm. My motto is, try it on. If it fits you, it's your size.
How do you find inspiration? I mean, there's so many different patterns and textures, and how do you put it all together? It's amazing.
I have no set pattern whatsoever. I don't use commercial patterns at all. I throw the fabric down on the table and just start cutting. Sometimes it's good, an odd time it's not.
Yeah.
You know, so it depends on the fabric.
Sure.
You know, some fabrics are heavier, got to be jackets. Some lighter, got to be dresses.
How often do you have people come in and say, "Oh, I saw this, and this is how I found this place"? Because I feel like that happens a lot in Rhode Island, right?
I have quite a few. I had a store in Newport many years ago, and I have people that still come in and say they still have things from then. But I have a ton of people that drive by and say they got stuck in traffic and saw the windows.
I love it.
And then they come in. Somebody, when we had our store in Newport,
Yeah.
you know, it's probably happened, in the 2 years, it probably happened 10 times, where different people came in and said, remember that jacket you made with blah, 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 and trim and blah, blah, blah? I still have it.
That's cool.
Doesn't fit me, but I still own it. Like, give it back. I'll resell it.
So, but you do that here at the Church Palace, right? It's not just your stuff here. You have other makers.
The clothing is all mine.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have other makers' clothing. I have a couple of different artists.
Okay.
You know, so I have Jen Charlson behind me. She does the sort of alien artwork. The artwork on the hallways, Betty's. And then Jer, my best friend, makes the hats.
I mean, what you're doing is really important, right? Because it's all recycling. It's keeping stuff out of the landfill.
Yes.
Right?
And I try and the best that I can to be zero waste.
Yeah.
Once I start making something, I keep all the scraps, and then I'll make a mask from that or a pair of baby shoes, right down to the slivers. Mm-hmm. And then the slivers don't even go to waste, the little strings. I fill pillows with those. And so I'm as close to zero waste when I make stuff as I can personally get.
Cool.
And of course, it's already secondhand to begin with.
Right.
You know, so it's like a new life. A lot of the textiles that I use are, you know, tablecloths, and they'll have a couple of stains. I'll just dye over it, and so that way you don't notice the stain in the dye, and it gets used again because people don't even use tablecloths anymore.
Right.
You know, but they make fabulous little tops.
Yeah. Cool. And so now you knit sweaters. This is one of her pieces. So tell me about this, because I've seen the machine.
Yeah. So I can knit by hand, but the machine is quicker, obviously. It's still manual. You know, you still have to stand there and do it, but it allows more like design freedom, let's say.
Okay.
You know, because you can do it quicker. If you're hand knitting, if you've ever done that, it takes days. Yeah. And so then you're reluctant to make something that you know is not going to come out perfect. Whereas when you're machine knitting, you can try something because it's quick. If it doesn't come out, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's like, okay, well, it didn't take me that long. And so you can experiment more, let's say.
Cool.
And the yarn that I use right now, we're down to the nubs. I used to work for Jansen Sweater Company, and they have these massive machines. And when the cones of yarn got to a certain point, when they were pretty small, they stripped the machines and put them all in a bin to be dumped at the dump. And so I told them that I was a knitter. And I said, you know, can I buy the yarn? And they said, if you want to follow the truck to the dump, you can take every bit of it that you want.
Nice.
And so 30 years on, I'm still using the yarn.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
30 years.
That's cool. So when you see a piece come back after 10 years, 20 years, do you remember them?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel?
Always. I always remember it. It's a weird thing. I just was having this discussion the other day with a lady, I mentioned it to you, that she was a fabric designer. And she said she remembers, you know, designing certain fabrics and which company bought them. And I said, yeah, I don't particularly remember which person bought it, but I would recognize my, you know, my garment if it walked through the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a thrill actually to know that it lasted that long.
Yeah.
Being vintage fabric to begin with.
Right,
You know,
right.
so,
Yeah.
and then of course my sewing skills. Like, okay.
Something to be proud of.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that it held together.
Yeah. I love
Maybe
it.
maybe they didn't wash it. Who knows?
Where do you source a lot of your material? So do you just have like a warehouse full of stuff, or do you still shop for recycled stuff?
I love that part, you know, as well. So we go to the flea market. One of the sources that I love is the Food Pantry in Bristol.
Okay.
They have a thrift store, and they have, you know, little pieces of fabric and of course lots of linens, and I just go there. But I love that part. You know, when I find a beautiful piece of fabric, it's almost orgasmic. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, thank God.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.